Lieutenant B and Pat Nicoletti this Thursday at Shakopee Bowl for Coors Light Hockey Night. Stop by from 7 to 9 to watch the hockey game and play hockey trivia for a chance to win sweet tickets to the January 4th game. More info at KFAN.com. Keyword calendar.
Looking at the devil.
How you been, my brother? Good to see you.
I'm great. Good to see you. You had vocal maintenance. I had finger maintenance.
You did?
Yeah, brain maintenance.
Finger maintenance. Go on.
Yeah. I went to the beach. I don't know.
You went to the beach?
Yeah, I did.
Went to a beach?
I went to a beach.
You're lucky. Where?
Miami. Went to see some friends in Miami.
Oh!
Yeah.
Did you go to the Clevelander in South Beach?
Didn't do anything crazy. I did go to a Heat game, which was like a club, honestly. I don't know if you've ever been to that arena, but I mean, it was electric in there.
Yeah. Last year, when the Vikings played the Dolphins, I don't exactly know where the press box was. I think it was close to the Vox box, which is one of the worst Vox boxes in the NFL.
Ever the Vox, yeah.
But like when we left, we had to walk through a club. There was like you walk through a club. So the Dolphins just lost. I'm like, okay, people are going to be a little sad.
Yeah.
And then I walk in there, it's like, oh, hot here. And I'm like, hey.
Hold on, what was it like?
It was like, hot in here.
You're right.
Oh, by the way, this is Alec Lewis of The Athletic. TheAthletic.com covers the Minnesota Vikings and does so for profit. You can find him on Twitter at ALEC, Alec_Lewis. He's young Alec, and he's our beloved YA. How excited are you for that Bama game?
The one
coming up.
Yeah. I mean, I'm excited. I understood all the arguments, and I get it, and I feel bad for Florida State. But yeah, I mean, Alabama, Michigan in Pasadena. I mean, come on. And this Alabama, I mean, I've watched a lot of these Alabama games over the years. I think this is Nick Saban's best coaching job, which is crazy to say. He's had a little bit of success, I think.
Yeah, until Michigan beats him by 14 or more.
No, it's not going to happen, but I appreciate the respect and the interest.
We'll turn the mics off and make a little bet here. I probably shouldn't say that at a National Football League facility.
I wouldn't recommend it.
Have somebody go Calvin Ridley on my career. But anyway, you were saying?
No, it should be very fun. The college football season was great. And honestly, all of the arguments about the playoff, when you have 5 big conferences for 4 spots, I mean, what are we doing? Yeah. How is that ever going to be perfect? If all 5 teams go undefeated, then what were you going to do? So the arguments, I think, are very fair from all parties, but it's kind of a silly setup from the beginning.
Well, we were talking with Tatum, who was in here last hour, and in some ways, I think Texas's loss was to Oklahoma. Is that accurate?
I think that's right, yep.
Well, in some ways, like the Florida State thing being out and some of the arbitrary ways that they're grading and ranking, I can understand it. Now, Boo Corrigan, the head of the CFP committee, happens to be the AD at a fellow ACC school, NC State, so who knows? And Boo's a great guy. But the fact that Texas is in with that loss, where you could even say Georgia should still be in, given that their only loss was in the SEC title game. Everyone's focused on this Jordan Travis and Florida State thing. The Longhorns, they kind of in some ways are kind of creeping into this mix, and no one's talking about that.
It's true. I mean, they beat Alabama early in the season, but it was a totally different Alabama team. Alabama had not even committed really to Jalen Milroe.
You blamed it on the refs?
Right, blamed it all on the refs. No, I barely watched that game. It was actually the night before the Vikings season opener against the Bucs.
So you couldn't sleep.
I couldn't sleep. Couldn't sleep at all. I literally, you're laughing. I was pacing around the press box. Right. I could not wait for the week 1. I'd been ready for it. But yeah, no, Texas.
Do you have any friends that attended Auburn?
Yeah, a ton.
Could you guys interact with each other? And is that positive? Is that weird?
You grow up in Alabama. Anniston is where you say I grew up.
Correct.
Yeah, and every weekend, everything revolves around Alabama Auburn. And so it's the conversation at the lunch table. It's the conversation on the playground. It is, everybody's talking about it all the time. And, some people are more passionate and dug in than others. It created some real arguments for some, but I don't know. I was always above that, you know?
Like, could you just casually say, like, War Eagle, like you wouldn't feel like you were betraying your team?
Me personally, yes. Some people in the state have a hard time.
You're not a real fan.
No, I'm not. I'm an objective journalist.
Yeah.
Texas shouldn't be in. It should be Georgia, Alabama, Michigan, and Washington.
Okay. Why don't you go ahead and text Officer Geistat? All right. Now, that's his favorite team above all teams, I think, including the Minnesota Vikings.
What about the Syracuse Orange?
Syracuse Bruce basketball, it's a very good
He's a
point.
big Boeheim guy.
Yeah, it's a dead heat or a 1 in a very tightly contested 1A.
He wears a Carmelo Anthony game-worn Syracuse jersey under the blues when he's on patrol.
Yeah, and with shirts where the sleeves are cut off. Yeah, there's no doubt about it. I mean, he, like Alec,
Either
is
that
from,
or REO Speedwagon.
Right. Well, they're both from, Alec and Rob are both from Calhoun County. So, therefore, cut off sleeves. I mean, that and Dog the Bounty Hunter. You just can't get around it with these Alabama kids. But I haven't watched Texas play football since Ricky Williams was the running back. I mean, like, what makes this, what's Texas? Where did Texas come from?
I have no
Steve
idea.
Sarkisian has done a good job. He was Alabama's offensive coordinator, went to the school of rehabbing his career with Nick Saban as the offensive coordinator there. And then he got to Texas. They have some NFL D linemen, and that's really where they built this team. Yeah, I know.
Like Daron Payne, Jonathan Allen.
No, I'm saying Texas, too. Texas this year has some. And then they also have some receiver talent. They've got a guy.
Johnny Ham Lamb and Jam Jones.
Exactly. Jam Jones, perfect.
Yeah,
I think a guy,
John knows that reference. You don't.
Yeah. Xavier Worthy is a receiver that you will hear about in the NFL. And then their quarterback, Quinn Ewers. I don't know if he's going to come out this year, but he's another guy who's up in that mix. Yeah, he's good.
Is he being pushed by Arch Manning down there, or it's Ewers' job and Arch can chill?
It's Ewers. Ewers is the guy. But Arch I think he got in a couple games ago. He was pretty good. But no, Sark has really rebuilt that program. And I'm acting like I'm some big college football.
You are.
A
lot bigger than us.
Yeah, I mean that's fair. But no, it's.
But Alabama's your favorite team. Okay, that's
correct.
Your favorite Alabama football, and it's okay to be a journalist and have a favorite team, a side piece, so to speak, that is outside of what you cover. So, in fact, if I were in your metaphorical shoes, then I would want to have something about which I can be passionate in sports, given the coverage of a team. I mean, you're not going to go over the top and get all gushy when it's a win, and you're also, if it's a loss, there's that side of it too. So I think it's cool you have a favorite team.
It is, yeah. I've always been though like a players guy. And so that's really, even though I do root for Alabama and I went to Mizzou, so I support Mizzou football and all that. But I've always when I watch the NBA, there are certain players I gravitate to. When I watch the NFL, it's the same way, just certain in college football. So
what about the NHL?
The NHL, I'm a big Matt Boldy guy with the way he's been slinging the puck around.
Yes.
I mean, the way the way they've moved the puck in zones, in and out.
You think Evison was grading on them a little too much, and therefore that's why he lost his job?
You can start to see it, really, in terms of their disposition on the ice through their metallic helmets.
That's a trained eye.
Right, yeah. And really to see Kirill and Boldy, and to see the way they've really just shuffled the puck in their line changes, it's been really solid.
All right, so is this going to be one of those Big Ten team type years where, I mean, like I watched more Michigan Wolverines football this year than any other college football team. So mostly because I wanted to see what J.J. McCarthy was like, just kind of get a feel for him. So like early in the year, I was watching all these quarterbacks, no Bix, Penix from out Pacific Northwest way, and then you got the USC kid, you got the North Carolina kid. Now you're bringing up User or Yesser or whatever his name is. But there have been so many times that Big Ten teams have been ballyhooed. And they get into big games and they just get murdered. I mean, it's just like you're watching the game going, oh my God, I watched this team the entire year. They got 5 guys on defense who are going to play in the NFL, but they're slow compared to the Bamas and the Georgias and the Clemsons and teams like that. Is that what's going to happen to Michigan in these games?
It's certainly possible. The team that really, I mean, for me, that people aren't talking a ton about is Washington. I mean, they've answered the bell time and time again. They have a ton of talent. That receiver Rome Odunze is going to be a first round pick, probably top half of the first round. They are really talented, and so I mean, yeah, Michigan has a lot to prove. I will say though, like C.J. Stroud last year, they went toe to toe with Georgia, so it's not like these Big Ten teams can't hang. And I think that performance of C.J. Stroud probably I think a lot of people probably should have put more stock into what he was capable of against that defense. So,
see, the thing with Washington, and it's kind of in analyzing these QBs into the draft too, whether it's Penix and Bo Nix, of course, moving from the SEC out west, Caleb Williams and what he's done, the ups and downs of that USC season, is I remember when Jake Browning was at Washington, and they were as highly touted, and it was Pac-12 after dark and the whole bit, and I think it was Peterson, the head coach, and it's like, look at us, nobody cares, we're under the radar because everyone's in bed by the time we play, but watch out for these playoffs, and they just get freaking railroaded in the playoffs. So it's almost in some ways like Washington has to rise above, and it's not Penix's fault, but they got to rise above that, because still, I don't believe on a national scale people, other than USC, I think really is secondary to all of that, people paying attention to Washington Huskies football.
No, it's very fair. I mean, to me, the wins against Oregon and really beating them the second time, that was the impressive.
That was a big one right
and
there.
And it was a year where the Pac-12, you watch college football, the Pac-12 was pretty loaded. I mean, UCLA at times could compete. Utah didn't have their quarterback, but competed in a lot of games. Washington State had a quarterback, Cam Ward, that was really talented. It's now in the transfer portal, and a lot of big time teams are seeking him. So it was a very good final year for the Pac-12, and that's why, for me personally, I'm higher on Washington. But I will love watching these games. I will really enjoy it. I've gotten, the more that I've covered the NFL, I've gotten back into college football as I'm viewing it from a draft perspective. Yep. So all these quarterbacks that you mentioned, the J.J. McCarthy's, the Caleb Williams, I've watched all these guys closer than I've probably watched quarterbacks in the past, just to have a feel and have an idea and
who knows what maybe Mr. Adolfo Mensa might choose to do in late April. It's good to be ready.
You never know.
If I believe, or if we believe, or if you believe, or anybody believes, the Minnesota Vikings will seek a quarterback in the first round of the 2024 draft, do you think that is an opinion that is that of lunacy?
No.
Okay,
no, I don't.
I'll stop there.
No.
So now let's play some numbers here. All right, so they're 6-6, and who knows where it's going to go? But I don't know. Say they pick 20th, 19, somewhere between 19 and 24. You cool with that?
Yeah.
Okay. So, do you think the Vikings would be interested in a rookie quarterback in the top 10, where they would come that far up to get somebody?
It's possible. If you look around the league and talk to people in the business, there aren't that many guys who exist in that top 10 range. I mean, it's Caleb Williams, Drake May, and then Jaden Daniels, the LSU kid you guys talked about with Tatum, has started to kind of creep into that category. But
I like him, but he's super rail thin.
He is thin, and again, the mobility and his ability to go through progression. I mean, there's going to be questions that he's going to have to answer, but he's an electric athlete and has kind of an arc that is reminiscent a little bit of Lamar Jackson, just in terms of the helium prior to the draft. But like the J.J. McCarthy's, the Bo Nix's, the Michael Penix's, those guys might be available at the 20 range to where the Vikings.
As of now, the purple would select 21st overall.
Oh, right.
And I've kind of seen that where it is still, and ups and downs. Again, that USC season with Caleb had so many good moments, and then he has like a 3-pick game, and just struggled. I think it was against Notre Dame, just had an awful game.
Terrible.
And kind
in
of
prime time
ended with a thud. But in the same sense, I mean, the talent's undeniable, and he should be probably in that top 5 range in terms of who's selected.
I mean, what is going on?
But that's what I've seen is it's still after everything, and a lot of this gets hashed out during the combine. People fall in love with numbers and measurables and such in Indy, but I think they could sit at 21 and not leverage future capital and get maybe 4 or 5 out of the 6 or 7 guys that we're talking about.
There is a friend who is the lead college football writer for Athlon. His name's Howard Bornstein, and he sent a text recently that says, there's no defense, Paul. There's no defense in the Pac-12. That's why quarterbacks look good there. But great USC, Washington, and Oregon quarterbacks at the next level. Daniels is the Daniels. Who's Daniels?
Jaden Daniels.
Oh, Jaden Daniels. Okay. Daniels is the quarterback the Vikings should take from LSU or McCarthy. So would either of those be in, or would McCarthy be in the 21-ish?
I think so, for sure. Yeah, McCarthy. Now, I've watched, like I said, I've watched a lot of quarterback play, and I don't pretend at all whatsoever to be some evaluator, scout. Really, the best thing I can do is reach out to people who are evaluators and scouts and ask them questions. And I would say, from what I know and the people I've talked to, J.J. McCarthy has a lot of differing opinions around the league in terms of how they view him. The size that you mentioned with Jaden Daniels, it's also a factor with J.J. McCarthy. He's pretty rail thin.
Yeah.
The mobility is definitely there. He can extend plays, but what Michigan asks him to do, I think, leaves a little bit to be desired in terms of what he'd have to orchestrate at the line of scrimmage.
That's the key with them, man. I mean, Corum, I think, is the guy that you guys are going to have to worry about. I mean, I think he has a touchdown like 23, 24 straight games.
Absolute stud.
And so they'll ask J.J. McCarthy, it's like, oh, cool. He was 9 of 10 for 85 yards in a blowout win with 250 yards on the ground. Defense gives up a touchdown at most a game. Like him having to stretch it out and him having to necessarily go and be the guy that wins games, you just didn't see that this year.
No question. And he made some really impressive throws. Against Ohio State, there was a throw where he drifted to his right and feathered it over a defender. But then you talk to some people who watch the game and know some of the progressions. They're like, well, he might have missed his number one there, and that's the reason why he had to make the incredible throw. Jaden Daniels is a fascinating evaluation in his own right, because you go look at the numbers, it is lunacy. I mean,
it's unbelievable.
It's video game. It doesn't make any sense. But he has incredible receivers. LSU has 1 or 2 receivers who are probably going to be first round picks. They also had a really good pass protection this year. And then SEC defenses just were not phenomenal. So it's a hard evaluation. This is what makes it so challenging.
Yeah.
And to bring it back to this building, this is part of the reason why Kevin O'Connell was the selection of the GM and ownership, because he's evaluated quarterbacks for years. I've said this on your show before, but he literally grew up in the business as a coach through coaching in the private sector. He worked with Marcus Mariota pre-draft. So he knows how these quarterbacks are trained to answer questions in some of these interviews, and he can sift through what is canned answers and certain things like that. So you have a guy in Kevin who he'll tell you too, he evaluates guys every year, whether the Vikings are interested in picking a quarterback or not. He goes through his own process where he scouts all of these guys and makes notes on what did I miss with these. So this is a process he's gone through for years, and probably you would hope, if you're Quasido for Mensa and if you're a fan and if this is the route they chose, which is drafting a guy, that he will put you in a position, just given his ability to kind of see and evaluate.
So your father, John, has worked at the Anniston Yarn Mill for about 35 years, and the common thread here will be the common thread with the 2024 draft. It's in 2020. It's. I wish we could be this person at least one time. Somebody coming into the 2020 draft. We're at the combine before the pandemic hits, and all the talk was greatest wide receiver draft in the history of the NFL's coming up, and I think it was right. Into this year, we heard a lot of the same things about tight ends. Well, this Kincaid, he might be a superstar. I think Musgrave can play a little bit, even though he's hurt. You got Ben Sims, the former Viking from training camp.
It's absurd.
Sam Laporta is the topic of it all for me, too.
Sims, undrafted from Baylor. Well, he's scoring.
What about this kid we're going to see this weekend, Mayer?
But Mayer's another one. Tucker Kraft from Under the Cover of Darkness. He's scoring. And Sam Laporta's the topic. The guy from Iowa was one of the best tight ends in the NFL. So do we think, in common thread fashion, copyright our sponsor of this segment, the Anniston Yarn Mill and John Lewis Productions.
It's so ridiculous.
Do we think this could be the greatest quarterback draft in the history of the NFL?
No, not at all.
Right.
No. To me, it
took me a while to get there. But
I appreciate
it wasn't worth it.
No, the common thread of the Anniston Yarn Mill, that was impressive.
Thank you.
How you paired those two things together.
Yeah.
See, this is...
I tried too hard.
No. I thought it was really impressive.
Thank you.
The fact that you
way
could
that he
link
weaved his way through it.
The way, right. It's you guys are. It's impressive stuff, and I hope the listeners realize that it's not an easy thing to weave and thread all of that together.
What's the next point about the quarterbacks in the draft?
At the beginning of this college season, like the external hype around all of these, the Penixes, the Bo Nix, like it made it feel like there's going to be 7 first-round quarterback selections.
Yeah.
And now when you talk to people who literally have positions to analyze this in the draft for teams around the league, like you'll hear it's kind of a Drake May, Caleb Williams, and then like maybe Jaden Daniels is creeping in that mix, but there are a lot of questions about a lot of these guys, whether it's Bo Nix and his age, Michael Penix and his age. I mean, there's a lot of questions. So no, I would say you can't go anywhere close to saying that about
which draft. Yeah, so it was 2018 draft. I'm going back here, and it kind of reminds me a bit of that where. You have Baker Mayfield. You have Sam Darnold goes third. Then you have Josh Allen. Now, Josh Allen certainly we would say has been worth the 7th overall pick. But then you go, I think, was that the year that Lamar goes last? Yeah, Lamar. So you have those years where it's 4 or 5. It gets built up. But then you're left, maybe 2-3 years later, sifting through the ashes. The quarterback draft, was that a Josh Rosen draft as well, potentially? Yeah, it was.
That's a good one.
Steve Wilkes took the L with the Cardinals because they take Josh Rosen, and then they go with Kingsbury and Kyler the very next season. So you have those seasons. I think back to 2011. It was the Jake Locker, Cam Newton, I think, goes first overall, and then everyone else is sweating the Blaine Gabberts and the Christian Ponders of the world.
Right.
So 2012, where it was RG3 and Andrew Luck. Yeah, there you go. So when you have the two that are so top heavy, it does create worries for me a bit in terms of if I'm Kwesi Adolfo-Mensah to try and reach up for something when there is such a drop off of there's this big group, but I think only 1 or 2 are actually considered bona fide next level superstar type talents.
Well, the 1983 draft. Ooh. All right, John Elway went first. HOF. After that,
we got to hit the P1 demo here.
Yeah.
After that, Dan Marino went 27th. Why? Because he couldn't move? I mean, we can't take a quarterback high because he can't movement begin in 83?
Yeah, Alec, what are your thoughts on the 1983
back in 83,
draft?
what I was thinking
what I'm saying is I don't care who goes in this draft and what we have to watch for X amount of years. If you bookend around with Elway and Marino, the greatest quarterback draft in the history of the NFL, conversation's over. I mean, I don't even need to look past those 2. You got 2 HOFs. I mean, these are immortality type guys.
Well, you got 3. You got Jim Kelly, who went
Jim
14th
Kelly
overall to the Bills,
and you got Kurt Warner.
And you were always a big. You thought Ken O'Brien was always underrated.
Well,
with the Jets.
What about Kurt Warner, 3rd overall? Oh, that's the running back, Kurt Warner. Hey!
Nordo.
No, I actually had to pause for a second. Like, how old is Kurt?
Yeah, the listeners couldn't see it all, but Nordo leaned forward.
Yeah.
You know the
who's taking Todd Blackledge 7th? Oh my God!
Great announcer though.
Yeah, he's
really
good.
A good job.
Me too.
Yeah.
Tony Eason went to the Patriots. Wow, a bad 1st round pick before Belichick was with the team.
I had been wondering about the 83 draft this morning.
Oh, shut up! I'm trying to put in context. Okay, well, let's go ahead and watch Drake May win Offensive Rookie of the Year.
Sure.
Watch Caleb Williams go for 31-8. Watch Bo Nix go for 27-4 with 5 rushing touchdowns. Shedeur Sanders, under the cover of darkness, sneaks in the 5th round, and he steals the show. Let's go. Let's let it play out for a little bit, okay?
What's so interesting, just think about. I mean, this is me in that 83, but last year's draft is so interesting just to think about how the arc of how guys ascended. I mean, you talk about Bryce Young was for a lot of people, the surefire number 1 guy. And you see what's happened in Carolina. It's been an absolute mess. And CJ Stroud, on the other hand, there were questions. Could he process? There's tests and all this. And ultimately, he's been incredible. And I think what you can learn from just a year ago is that the structure around these guys really, really matters, no matter who it is. And Kevin O'Connell has talked about this both publicly and privately, that he believes developing a quarterback is an intentional process. It's not we just draft a talented guy, throw him at having the structure and the scaffolding around those guys and bringing them along at the right time with the right information and the right kind of education in the system, like that is important. And you have to give the Vikings credit for the way they built the offense for if that time ultimately comes, it has been an intentional kind of approach.
We do need to be careful with these Pac-12 quarterbacks. I mean, over the course of time, you got like Carson Palmer, but you got a lot of Matt Barkleys and Matt Leinerts and Cade McCown's in there too. You know, like this year, like right now, quarterbacks now. I mean, of all starting quarterbacks in the NFL, I think only 2 are from the Pac-10, Pac-12. Jared Goff, Cal. Justin Herbert, where'd he
Oregon.
go? Yeah, Oregon. You got those 2. I mean,
Rogers technically Cal, although that doesn't.
Yeah, I mean it's all SEC. I mean it's mostly SEC up
But in
there,
recent
man.
times, yeah.
Yeah, you got these quarterbacks like Joe Burrow, LSU, and then of course Josh Dobbs, Tennessee. You know, some of the better quarterbacks in the NFL.
Right, Josh Dobbs is certainly in that category considering what he did against Atlanta and New Orleans. But yeah,
Kevin O'Connell, head coach of the Minnesota Vikings, will address the media, including YA later, and that's where he will mention either Dobbs is the starter Sunday or he's not. And we will get into that and much more around the corner. It is KFAN.
KFAN, The Fan.
It's a Wild Wednesday on The Fan, sponsored by Jim Beam, the official bourbon of the Minnesota Wild, and we want to send you to the game. Caller 11 will win a pair of tickets to go see the Wild take on the Calgary Flames on January 2nd. Call 800-320-5326 right now.
But of course.
Alec Lewis, The Athletic, theathletic.com, amplifying 9 to noon from the TCO radio studios at Twin Cities Orthopedics Performance Center, your home for Minnesota Vikings football. Vikings and Raiders 3:05 or shortly after 3. Boom. This Sunday on FM 100.3 KFAN. Now, Kevin O'Connell, Wes Phillips, the offensive coordinator, said, and I didn't hear the press conference, I caught it from one of YA's tweets. He said that, you know, KOC is going to make the proclamation of the starting quarterback today, Wednesday. And so we've got Dobbs, we got Mullins, we got Jaren Hall. And it's interesting that in you know, like following Alec's work and reading his mailbag and then reading some of the comments, talking to Nordo when he filled in for yours truly last week on vocal maintenance days. And then Nordo's gone Monday, so I open up a little quarterback talker to the 64686. The amount of Jaren Hall requests from fans, it A, surprised me, but B, it was eye-opening to me in that I'm not mad at their logic. You know, it's like, okay, you got this guy who can run and maybe he can't pass. The other guy has 17 starts and he has a bad back. Okay, they didn't put that in there, but I'll add that in there because I think it's pertinent. And then you have a rookie who potentially could be the future of the franchise. That's the one to use. That's what a lot of fans are saying. What do you think?
Yeah, to me, it's a lesson of like psychology in some way of when you don't know something, you like project whatever you think on that. Like people don't know what Jaren Hall is. We saw him 1.5 drives.
Yeah.
You guys know, we talked all summer, like after they drafted him this summer, I ended up spending an hour and a half with the offensive coordinator at BYU.
You did a good feature, and I made it sound like you put him in Canton.
Yeah. You were like, you were like,
but he pinned it, and it was there for a month and a half.
Exactly. I had to. I put in the work. I was proud of it. But I remember Nordo saying like,
story.
I remember you saying like, yeah, you did a great job on writing about Kurt Warner. I mean, we were joking about it, but I did all that work, and all I can tell you is, like, I don't know what Jaren Hall is. We watched him in training camp. There were some up days. There were some really down days. I mean, I'm just going to tell you right now. There were some days where he was throwing some passes over the middle where you're like, buckle your seatbelt because I don't know what you're going to see. And so I will never, fans and perspective that fans have is why we do the job. It's what makes the job enjoyable.
Agreed.
I love the engagement. I love the interaction. And I love listening to, and I think a lot of times fans have a good intuition on what they think and why they have opinions, but there's also a lot that none of us know. And to think that Jaren Hall is this gangbusters type of talent without barely seeing him, but a drive against an Atlanta defense.
But I don't think that's the approach, at least from what I've seen from the fans. I don't think they think, hey, we're sitting on untapped offensive rookie of the year here. I think they're casting their gaze to 2024 because the squad's middling. We don't know what to think about Dobbs off the Bears disaster. Mullins has the back, and this just seems logically like, wouldn't you use this one to see what you have into an offseason where you could draft a quarterback? I mean, I can buy into that.
Yeah, no, I can too. But coming off the conversation we just had about developing quarterbacks and being intentional about what spots you throw them in at certain times.
Yeah.
I mean, Jaron Hall has spent his entire year going back to the draft. He's learned the offense, but he probably doesn't have a full grasp of
Right.
anything close to the offense. And so to manage things at the line of scrimmage, the mayhem of what you have to do on Sunday and adapting, it's a lot to ask of a guy that you want to develop. And so
So you're saying he doesn't see it clearly?
no, I'm not saying that outright because I don't know. I mean, that's the reality.
Well, I like your term that you use, projection, because after Atlanta, a lot of fans were projecting lightning in a bottle, 2017 Case Keenum, NFC title game, and you're on your own after that. Whether you're projecting something you just haven't seen. So you can't be proven wrong with the opinion. So just roll with it. But you were projecting greatness or the best possible result of Josh Dobbs, where then now you've seen very consistent regression over the course of those 4 weeks. So I think it's, and the cliche can play true, is that everyone's favorite player sometimes is the backup, right? Until you have to see him.
Right.
And so when you do have the situation of KOC, who is making he's trying to make the best decision of three ultimately mediocre decisions in all three of these guys. Well, why not see the kid? And then we don't even have to talk about Jaden Daniels, and we can get the next best pass rusher at 21 next year because we have the future of the franchise. I love the term projection because that's all this is right now.
And you said it best, and I wrote this last week after the game, and Tuesday, Kevin O'Connell saying we're going to take a look at everything. I remember kind of writing then, like, the reality is they're taking a look at three options that are not preferable. I mean, it's just the reality. And this team sitting at 6-6, especially bouncing back from the 0-3, 1-4 start, like, they deserve a chance to give it everything they've got these last 5 games. And Kevin O'Connell is always probably going to think that way as the coach and as a competitor, that guys like Harrison Phillips and Jordan Hicks and guys who put in the time and have led this team, they deserve a chance to pour everything out there and be as successful as possible. So to just punt for 2024, and it's just not in the psyche of where the coaches and a lot of these leaders are right now.
And I'm glad it's not.
And again, like,
same.
For fans who want to talk about, we want to put ourselves, we want to be out of purgatory. Like, I understand that entire idea and perspective, but with where they are at right now, with the people in this building and how this season has gone, I mean, they want to give it everything they've got in these last 5 games against divisional opponents and some games in prime time, and that matters to them to kind of finish off this season given the way they've responded.
I just think it's super simple. Is Jaron Hall was the emergency third quarterback the last couple of weeks. I hate to drill it down to something so basic. He decided Mullins is the backup. So it's either going to be Mullins or Dobbs, probably Dobbs. But that's how I drilled it down, is they know what they have in him in some respects. Can't replace game reps, but they do see him in practice every single week, and it's either going to be Dobbs or Mullins.
And I do think Paul is right. PA, you're right to mention Nick Mullins' back situation. I mean, he missed.
I didn't think of that last week.
He missed multiple weeks of time with a lower back injury that is.
That matters.
From everything I know, I'm just going to tell you right now, it's not something that just heals. He's 100%. He's moving. I mean, and when you're a quarterback, and I've studied this space a lot, it is a rotational type of activity, and you have to turn your body. Your back is very integral, not to mention the physicality of if you're getting hammered by Max Crosby. I mean, that's a lot to ask. So when we talk about who Kevin O'Connell is going to name as starter in an hour, and it's going to be Josh Dobbs, all of that factors in.
In your mailbag at The Athletic and theathletic.com, Alec Lewis covers the Minnesota Vikings, does a weekly mailbag, correct?
Not weekly, but I try to do
I mean WEAKLY. Okay, cool.
Yeah, that's impressive.
So anyway, why you got to run down DJ Wanham the way you did? I mean, Nordo and I, more so Nordo. I mean, it's like one of Nordo's favorite players. I mean, he was like defensive player of the year conversation for a half second.
No.
But DJ it's the best season he's ever had of his career.
And we need it.
Yet I read the mailbag, and we got all this DVOA and PER and
pressure rate,
batting average of balls in play and WAR.
Yeah.
And it's like, just making him sound like a third stringer up in here.
Well, I took the question, and I had thought similarly. I mean, I go back to the Carolina game and what DJ Wanham did in that game, and then some of the Bears games and the performances, and I'm like, maybe it's a really valuable thing that I need to dive in and see that this guy's doubled his pressure rate, which is more sticky than sack numbers. Yeah. So that's why I look at that statistic.
Yeah.
And I ended up diving in, and I see, you know what? Like, the pressure rates are actually worse than last year. The win rates are worse than last year. So while the splash plays have been there, and he's obviously jumped out to us as viewers, to me that was important if we're trying to talk about, are they going to sign him long term or not?
Okay, well.
So sorry, it was an objective. I went at it from an objective perspective.
I don't have this in front of me. I would venture to guess he's playing more this year than he's ever played. So therefore, that might factor into it too. That the volume may cause that win rate or that batting average of balls in play bit, to go down a little bit. But he's set to be unrestricted at the end of the year. I'm not, because I think you can get him at a good number for the team. So I'm not like, hey, you're fools if you don't sign him before the end of the year. But I would definitely try to re-sign DJ Wanham right now. Like, get it before the year's done, so you got that. Then you got to deal with Daniil and then all the rest of the guys.
Well, we talk so much about the quarterback and the draft, and I think it's very rightful to do that because it's the most important position, and there's uncertainty there. But there is a lot of uncertainty at another gigantic position moving forward here, and that's edge rusher.
Yeah.
It's a gigantic, it's a really important hole. It's one of the most impactful positions on the field, and you have Daniil Hunter doing what he's done this season, in line for a massive payday for a team that needs to use money all sorts of ways for multiple spots, including Justin Jefferson.
Yeah.
And then you have, all the other options you have are Patrick Jones. Patrick Jones and Andre Carter are the only two guys in the building who are under contract moving forward. So that is
Davenport.
Davenport is only under contract through this season.
Okay.
He's on a 1-year deal.
Got it.
How much faith
my bad.
How much faith could you possibly have in what he's capable of? So, yeah.
My brother, we will see you in Las Vegas, okay?
I'm looking forward to it, and there will be a lot of purple. It's just my impression.
And good morning.
And good morning.
Alec Lewis, The Athletic, and theathletic.com. We put a wrap on the 9 to noon show from TCOPC.
The Fan.
I can't wait until tomorrow. 'Cause tomorrow,
Well, what's the most recent fine mess you've gotten us into, Nordo?
Well, apparently, late stages here as you hear this hip hop in the background here.
What's that?
Well, it was originally supposed to take place at 1:50 p.m.
No, what was the music?
Well, this is us waiting for the feed.
Oh, hold on. Hey, ma'am. Maxwell.
Hey, what's good?
Thanks for your help today. I appreciate you.
Yeah, I appreciate you guys. I'm always happy to hang out with y'all.
Just quickly, when the sun goes down, what happens to your gang?
Come on now. That's a redundant question. My gang gets bigger, Pete.
Listen to this. 2, 3. Sun goes down, Nordo's gang gets bigger. The sun is the trigger for bigger. Hey! That's all I got. How about that? Wrap on the show this ass.
Oh, no.
Hey.
The final segment brought to you by Casey's Wraps on the Show, provided by the host at 9 to noon PA, Casey's.com. Stop into a Casey's today and watch all your gangs get bigger with coffee and pizza.
Max was an inch from canceling me. Trigger,
I was like, what's
bigger.
He gonna rhyme?
Yeah, I know. Let me see what we got here. And productions and art, Max's Picasso. But of course, whiles would he try so hard to paint a picture? But put yourself in Max's shoes. Nah, see, I lost the beat right there. That's the difference between accomplished, cool, Mo D-esque artists like Nordo, who's going to be performing at the Myth this evening, opening for Big Daddy Kane. It's just keeping that rhythm, man. It ain't easy, man. That's a gift. That's a skill you got over there, Nords.
Well, I'm going to be performing at La Quinta in Las Vegas. It's off strip. And
tonight?
Yeah, tonight.
Oh, that'd be nice.
In Las Vegas.
Oh.
Can't wait for that.
Hey, man, if they're I'm sure there's somewhere within Las Vegas. I mean, if we find it and like we go over there, because I think I'm gonna have a car, and we head over there. I mean, how about you getting up there and just like killing it on the microphone at karaoke, and we're all like, "Hey!"
Oh, I'll do that. Yeah, let's find a piano bar somewhere, and we'll do some karaoke. It'll be awesome.
All right, my brother. See you in the 702.
See you soon
For the Friday football feast coming up this Friday from Las Vegas. Thank you, Max Fuller, and I'm Paul Allen. Everybody have a wonderful day. Kevin O'Connell's press conference is coming up shortly on your home for Minnesota Vikings football, FM 100.3 KFAN.
Podcast today's Paul Allen Show, or listen back to previous show and interviews by going to the iHeartRadio app or KFAN.com.